What is up, everybody? It's the Illustrated Underground here for the winter break special, reporting to you. Me and Quincy have been divided. We're in distant lands from each other, so we're meeting up via Zoom. And I'm here with my dear friend Christopher Groom, who is a aficionado on manga, which is what the topic of today's episode will be.
What's up?
So yeah,
Welcome.
Yeah, we're very excited to have you.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Chris has been reading manga for a very long time, right?
Yeah, since I was 10 years old,
And
even before, actually.
Last year, he studied abroad in Japan for a semester, so he has a lot of like firsthand cultural experience.
It was a fun time. I'll tell you that. It was a fun time.
Q, what about you? Are you a long time manga reader or kind of new getting into it?
So for me, it was more so anime for me. And especially the anime that got me into or the show, or not anime show that got me into was Dragon Ball Z Kai or Dragon Ball Z, whichever. Yeah, that and then Naruto and Naruto Shippuden. Those two during my adolescence, those are really great, and I just love them, and they hold up with me today. So anytime I get the chance to literally junior year or whatnot, a friend of mine was watching Dragon Ball, got into it for the first time, and just rewatching that and just getting that nostalgia. And then also too, I'm an RA, so a lot of my residents sometimes watch Naruto, and I would be like, oh, that's cool, and I would just chop it up with them, and just I love those animes, the action, the story arcs, the characters. Don't get me started because this could be a whole another call, but those two specifically got me into anime. And then I started branching off to others Sakamoto Days, which recently just got me back into anime.
Great new gen pick. One of my sleeper picks, honestly. It's not that popular, but it's like one of those new gen ones that I'm really big fan of. I like you also started with Naruto when I was a little kid. I grew up in Brazil. So, South America loves its anime. Brazil is not an exception. We had like a school play that was Naruto themed. So I was dressed up like little 3-year-old me was dressed up as Naruto. That's how cool that's how big it is down there. So I got started with Naruto, so I totally get it. DBZ, all that cool stuff. It's a good starting point, I would say, because they're I'll get to it later, but those are big gateway shows and manga for sure.
And I'm somebody that has is a little more fresh to this kind of stuff, has been a little bit more hesitant to explore it, but I really want to do this episode because I think there is no comic books without manga, and there's no manga without comic books. They're synonymous with each other, and there's kind of a lot of animosity between both communities, where it's like people that read comics sometimes don't read manga, like me, and people that read manga don't often read comics. So we wanted to do an episode that's kind of a crossover. And not just this episode, just in the future, we're going to talk about manga more because manga is comics. It's integral to talk about non-English language stuff, as we saw with the other Chris at the comic book store, who praised a lot of stuff that was written originally not in English or was translated. So this is very important stuff. This is where the roots come, and I'm sure Chris is going to get into it. But I've read some stuff recently that we'll get into later. I don't want to, Chainsaw Man.
We can get there when we get there. Chainsaw Man is much further down the line.
Yeah.
So I really wanted to talk about a lot of manga, but manga is a very broad topic.
Yeah.
Right. So
what does it mean? What does it mean in Japanese?
So manga is just it's not like there's a specific meaning. It just means comic book. That's what I meant, picture book. And so it's kind of, there's no real inherent difference really with regular comic books, but I wanted to really focus on one publication of manga. So I don't know, how in comics you have DC and Marvel. Well, in manga you have one publication, and it is Shonen Jump. This is the top of the top big dogs. This is the producers of some of the best, most acclaimed manga in the history of ever. So we'll get to which ones they've released, but I wanted to really focus on that because through this not just this magazine, but through similar magazines, they've created some of the greatest pieces of media I think I've ever read in my life. And so that's why they're number one, and they have been for a long time. So I want to get into it from the start, get to all the good stuff, and we're gonna see how it kind of evolves. So let's start off with what's a manga, right? What is it? So it's a Japanese comic. It reads from right to left. So in the description, I mean, me and John can't really see it that well, but the arrows kind of point to where your eyes are supposed to go. So the pages always start from the top right to the bottom left.
That's which is the opposite of comics.
Which is the opposite of comics, right?
Or American comics.
And so manga recently has become really popular in the West. I would say in the past 10 years is like when it's really starting getting popular here in the States. In South America, it's been popular for a lot longer, but I wanted to talk more about like the English speaking world, really. And it's more of a recent phenomenon I've noticed. So what's Shonen Jump? It's the most popular manga publication in the world. Manga is not released individually by issue like it is in comics. Like in comics, you have Batman, The Brave and the Bold issue 1, or Superman, All-Star Superman issue 1. Manga is released every week in this big book that's like this thick, and it has every series of the publication every week, unless they're on hiatus or anything like that. So it's like kind of like an anthology, and manga is very hard to kind of just like hop in the middle. It's more like there are obviously exceptions, but a lot of them are like structured stories that go from chapter 1 to the final chapter. But because they print it every week, they tend to run for a long time because people need time to get invested and time to really develop their relationships with certain stories, and a lot of them become really popular. So in Shonen Jump, you're not going to have like just one genre of story. You're going to have a really broad array, and we're going to see that sort of later on.
Wait, I have a question.
Yeah.
So they have these big books that come out every week, and in them is not volume size stuff. It's like an issue.
Yeah. So like one chapter of each series that they have.
Do most people read them that way, or do a lot of people read them when the volumes come
it's out? Not the most. This is how kind of they got their start in Japan, where it's like kind of how people read it in Japan. Like you walk into 7-Eleven every day and you could find the latest issue.
Like a magazine.
Kind of like a magazine. But I would say here in the West, it's not really consumed that way. It's really more so consumed by like the individual volumes that you buy at the store. For example, you go to Barnes and Noble and you want Chainsaw Man Volume 1, you buy Chainsaw Man Volume 1, and that has like 6 chapters. So it's like a month and a half of Shonen Jump volumes that are released into one single book, basically. So what's shonen, right? Big question. I mean, that's the first part of Shonen Jump. So shonen is the Japanese word for young boy. Now, it doesn't mean like little kid boy. It means more like from like ages like 10 to like 20 is like the big target range of like these stories. And so there's a counterpart to that, which is target towards girls, and that's shoujo manga. Shoujo manga has its own kind of thing, and we're not going to get into it super deeply right now because shoujo manga is like super broad, but that's more targeted towards girls. And then there's the adult versions of those this genre, which are seinen and josei, which is like the male and female counterparts of adult manga. So like stuff like Berserk and Vinland Saga and all of these like really popular series that you might hear of will not be present here because they're more adult and they deal with like heavier themes, and they're like a lot more adult basically. So they're not going to be touched on here, but
the DC Vertigo of
right, yeah, exactly. Less touchier subjects, more like broader kind of more uplifting stuff, I would say. Who's the competition when Shonen Jump starts? Well, we have Shonen Magazine and Shonen Sunday, which are the big competitors. Since then, these two publications have become a lot smaller, and Shonen Jump is like the top dog. But so Shueisha, the company that started publishing Shonen Jump, they released this like shonen or the shoujo manga called Shoujo Book, and then which later became Ribbon, and it was super successful until in 2018 they discontinued it. But they were like, oh wow, this Shoujo Book and Ribbon went super well. We should do the male counterparts. So then they made Shonen Book, and so in Shonen Book they have a lot of stuff that's like really really famous in Japan, like Mach Go Go Go, or as it's called in the US, Speed Racer. I love Speed Racer.
I remember the movie.
Oh, I mean, it's super good.
Yeah, Q knows the movie too.
I mean, Speed Racer is like, this is like, some of the legendary stuff that really came out at that time, but it's not really like as popular nowadays. I just wanted to include a panel of Speed Racer because I just think it looks so cool.
That almost go back.
Yeah.
That almost, I don't know what you think, Q, but that art style looks more comic booky than what manga does now, where it's like more inspired by anime.
What I like about this stuff is you can tell that it's really old manga, only because like the lines are like not as edged. I don't have no other way to explain it, but
They're like thicker.
Like look at how like the main character is drawn. Like he's like a more soft design, I would say. Like we're gonna see some character designs later that are super like edge and jagged, and they like look super modern, right?
Especially in Chainsaw Man.
Right, especially in Chainsaw Man.
Definitely that. I think you guys were talking about the blend, like between like kind of like how you were saying, John, that this looks more like, comic booky. And then Jim Lee, I think we talked about this with Nick, right? Like how looks more manga like his art for X-Men and Batman, like it looks more manga like. Whereas like this, you were like, oh, this looks more comic booky. And then also too, with Speed Racer, I would say it is somewhat popular, not maybe in another way, because I know like Racer X, doesn't he have his own like comic book now or something like that? I think not a manga, but I know.
I'm really not too sure. What I mean more like it's like a really old series that not a lot of people really talk about in the modern era, I would say. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if maybe you guys have found like a really cool niche of Speed Racer fans on the internet somewhere.
If you're out there, say what's up.
There, what's up. I also wanted to quickly say this because I forgot to mention this earlier, but unlike modern comics, I don't know how old comics work, but these are not colored like ever. They're always in black and white. There are exceptions to that. They went back and recolored all of Dragon Ball, and they recolored a lot of Naruto as well. And they did a lot of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure really gets a lot of preferential treatment when it comes to coloring. But
probably because of money.
Probably because of money and probably because they're popular series. Yeah. But usually most series are just printed in black and white because that's, the artists have a week to publish new chapters every single week. So there's really no time to do all of the coloring. It's usually just they spend as much time as possible on the drawings, and people can go back and color them later, kind of deal. So first I wanted to talk about Osamu Tezuka. Osamu Tezuka is the godfather of manga and anime. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. This is the man. This is, as you can see, Astro Boy is on the screen. Astro Boy is like the guy. He basically made anime what it is today. Fun fact about Mr. Tezuka is that he published a lot of series in both Shonen Book and Shonen Jump. One of them being Lion Book, which is I couldn't get past chapter 1 because I thought it was really boring, but people really liked it apparently. So he wrote also an adaptation of Robert Louis Stevenson's book Treasure Island called Shin Takarajima, which just means new island or new treasure island. Sorry. And so it's kind of like a spin-off of that concept. So
I like Astro Boy.
And he also inspired tons of people, like the guy who made Super Sentai, and some people who are going to come later. So he also wrote Dororo, which is one of my favorite stories of Osamu Tezuka. And Dororo is like a story of this little kid who is born into a wealthy family, like a king. And the king, in exchange for power, he trades to the devil the limbs and all the organs of his firstborn son. And that son becomes a samurai with prosthetic limbs. And he teams up with a little like thief boy called Dororo. and it's got a dope anime. If you are anyway interested in that story, it's really cool. Another really popular guy who started around this time is Go Nagai. He's also the man. I haven't read Cutie Honey, but a lot of people say it's good. But the two big ones that he wrote were Devilman and Mazinger Z. And Mazinger Z is like basically the first mecha thing ever. Like, you know how anime is like really popular for mechs and big robots?
It wasn't Ultraman?
No, it's this guy.
Wow.
He started it.
That was before even Ultraman. That's very surprising.
Well, because he writes around the same time as Osamu Tezuka. And Osamu Tezuka. What time
period was this?
This is like the 50s.
50s.
Yeah,
wow.
This is like really early. And so he's credited with the mecha genre. Like straight up, this is the guy. And Devilman is also a really popular series.
Yeah,
it was really
I've watched the anime. The
Devilman Crybaby. Yeah, that's the one most people know. It's a great show. I'm not really too familiar with the old Devilman, but I've seen Devilman Crybaby, so I gotta put respect on his name. You know, he's the guy.
What's very interesting to me, and Q, you could comment on this if you want to, but if you look at comic books in the 50s, I hate to say it, but I'm going to be blunt. A lot of them have aged like milk. They're filled with racism, a lot of bad stuff, and even the art is very old-timey. It doesn't hold up as good. Of course, is good stuff in the 50s, but when I look at this art, that doesn't look like the 50s to me. I think that's very, very ahead of its time, and it's very impressive that people over in Japan were making art like this in the 50s. Like, that's amazing.
For me, who reads a lot of manga, you know, all of this stuff, you know, feels really dated to me, at least to in terms of like the content. Maybe, I mean, the art still holds up surprisingly well, but you know, the content, I think mostly because it was a really new thing, and you know, they were trying to get people on board. A lot of the stories end up being really short, and they end up really being like kind of, you know, a little like they repeat themselves a lot in some of those stories. Like, they won't just, I mean, it's kind of similar in old comics. You know, I read the old X-Men comics, and you know, they kind of repeat themselves over and over.
Yeah, that's in the 70s too.
Well, I know, but like you hop in like midway through because you're reading some random issue at your local comic book store, you know, so you have to kind of be able to understand what's going on type shit.
We talked about that in the last episode with Nick.
So it is kind of like this, where some of these old series have like these quirks to them. But I do think they're still really cool. I mean, look at this drawing of Mazinger Z.
Yeah, it's that painting. I'd hang that up in my house.
So would I, honestly. So the golden age of Shonen Jump is what people refer to as the 80s and 90s. So like starting in 1979-ish, like Shonen Jump started publishing banger after banger after banger after banger. So hit after hit after hit. And a lot of the things that follow, stuff like Fist of the North Star, is going to be like super influenced by it, basically. And it's going to be like, oh, wow, Fist of the North Star is super successful. I'm going to copy what that guy wrote and just write the same thing. The first thing that comes out that is a huge success is Chinikuma, which just means muscle man, which is different from the regular show Muscle Man. And it's just like, it's like a manga about these big brawly dudes just beating the shit out of each other. It is the most rawest form of showing off the male physique at its peak performance, basically. And that became super successful. Team of two writers who were 17 when they wrote their first draft of it, and it exploded in popularity. It was huge. So then, you know, following up to that, you know, we have one of the people who was inspired by Osamu Tezuka, our first guy. The guy who wrote Dragon Ball, Akira Toriyama, and this is his first manga, Dr. Slump, in 1980, which is more of a situational comedy manga, and it also becomes super successful for a while. And then so then we have Captain Tsubasa, huge in Europe, actually. In France, it's really big because it's a soccer manga, and it gets really popular in France for some reason. Our boy Kenshiro with Fist of the North Star, and this is like when things really start to get huge. Like Hokuto no Ken is like referenced in a lot of shit. Like, look at this, bro. Like, peak influencing peak, which is so the first panel is from Fist of the North Star, the second panel is from Berserk, and the third panel is from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Part 3, Stardust Crusaders. Clearly, you can feel its influence in some of the biggest names in manga. Like, there's no manga without Fist of the North Star. There's no modern manga or modern shonen, I should say, without Fist of the North Star. And so this meme is actually from Fist of the North Star. お前はもう死んでいる。何?
Fist of the North Star is awesome. Me and Q both read a little bit of it, and I really see a lot of influences that comics took from this book specifically, where it's this kind of brooding protagonist wandering this wasteland, and it's very badass. I don't know how else to describe it. It just like exudes aura. The main character is so cool.
He's the OG aura farmer in the manga, I would say. Like, this is like where there's like a ton of characters in anime that get this like title of aura farmer, like Piccolo from Dragon Ball and Sasuke from Naruto. These brooding badass types. This is who they come from. That's who it comes from. That's who they are inspired by. That's Fist of the North Star. This is where it starts, basically, like the new wave. Basically,
he's got a mullet too.
Yeah, look at those neck muscles, man.
Yeah,
like,
that's crazy.
He could crack my head with his neck muscles.
But I really like this. I thought it was a really good showcase of Japanese action. And how explosive manga can get. What did you think, Q? I know you were kind of reading a little bit.
Yeah, I read like I'm still in volume 1. I read like about like the 5 or 6 chapters of it. I really liked it. I really do, and I want to continue reading it. Like as you were saying, John, like I feel and I find like especially now with like Absolute Batman, like I see so many parallels with this to that.
100%.
That it gives me a little bit of vibes of like Mad Max, even though we're not talking about like movies, but like it gives me kind of vibes of Mad Max, like the whole like wasteland, apocalyptic, but also too just like the story be that like beacon of hope in like a kind of a dark, hopeless world. The art style reminds me a lot of Absolute Batman, even like the way Absolute Batman is built, like is built like Kenshiro or whatnot.
His crazy neck muscles come from somewhere,
Exactly, and the way even the action sequences when like they have Absolute Batman, like just like you see like his big calf, and it's just like boom, and it's just like it reminds me a lot of this, like a lot of like the action sequences in this. So I love it for that. I can't wait to continue reading more of it.
If you're hesitant, if you're a comic book reader, superhero comic book reader, or whatever, and you kind of want to cross over a little bit, I think this is one of many very good, solid crossing over points where you're going to see a lot of stuff that you like from superhero comics in this.
I would agree. I think Fist of the North Star, while it's not as accessible as I would say like some other mangas on this list. I think what Fist of the North Star did for not just manga but for comic books as a whole is like it's undeniable. Like stuff like
substantial,
like Berserk, which we won't talk about on this list too much because it's not really part of this because it's a bit more dark and adult, so it's in the seinen category. But Berserk started off as a 1-to-1 clone of Fist of the North Star. Like Guts was a 1-to-1 clone of Kenshiro from the start, and so was Jonathan Joestar from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure as well. A lot of protagonists kind of emulating this like big strong brooding man kind of trope, like with big muscles, and he's really cool and badass, and he doesn't lose fights ever. Basically.
Sounds like Batman.
Exactly. Second and probably most popular project, Dragon Ball. And Dragon Ball, so when people think of Dragon Ball, they think a lot of Dragon Ball Z and like all of the cool like Super Saiyan, like blasting ki blasts everywhere and all of that cool stuff. And to a certain extent, I think that's kind of the identity that it took on. But I think when we talk about Dragon Ball, I think for me personally, this part that I really like the most about Dragon Ball is when Goku's actually a kid. And I think that kind of more grounded storytelling of early Dragon Ball is part of my appeal to this kind of character where he's like kind of just a dumbass kid. Goku just turns into a dumbass adult. and that's kind of what Dragon Ball Z is about. But I I really do love Dragon Ball. I think again, for the stuff that comes later, it doesn't exist without Dragon Ball. Like Naruto is just Dragon Ball. One Piece is just Dragon Ball. Like every manga from here on after is just Dragon Ball. But again, like that's the main foundation of the shonen genre. I would say like Kenshiro is cool, but like I think what really cements like this kind of archetype of these like happy-go-lucky dumbasses who are just trying to do good start with Goku and move forward throughout the ages, and then you get to see what that trope really evolves into as the decades roll around. But I really do love Dragon Ball. It's like one of the best to ever do it.
I read a little bit of this as well. I didn't read as much of this as I read of Fist of the North Star, but this it has an innocence to it. It has a childlike quality to it. It's very earnest, and
that's what I like about it.
it's not like another good jumping on point. I think if you are into, honestly, it kind of, I got a little bit of Superman vibes from this.
It is pretty Superman,
where it's like very hope uplifting, innocent. Like especially something like it's interesting because before this, and I don't know if Dragon Ball was influenced by this, before Superboy was like a clone of Superman or whatever bull crap they do with him. He was it was a comic that would tell the stories of young Superman. So before Superman became an adult, he was Superboy, and
right.
It was him in Smallville and his kind of antics. This reminded me a lot of that, where it's like Goku as a kid, kind of less serious antics, and then Dragon Ball Z, which I also read a little bit of, is Superman, like an adult, more serious,
I would say
higher stakes,
sure.
Bigger battles. I think it's a 1-to-1 kind of comparison right there. What do you think, Q? Have you read any of Dragon Ball? I'm sure you've seen the anime.
Oh, I've read it for sure, and like your Superman parallel is like right on, because literally like you literally see him as like the Japanese version of Superman, from the storyline to the villains to the plot, like like literally like bar for bar 1-to-1 ratio, and like I love Dragon Ball, that version, and I feel like for a jumping on point for readers, I feel like Dragon Ball as well as Fist of the North Star, those are great jumping on points, and especially like that, like the show is out and all that, like that's popular. I feel like that's more of a reason to start. And like I love Dragon Ball. I love the show. I love like even just the manga. Like I love like it's like storytelling or whatnot. And I feel like there's certain things from like books that you don't get from like shows or whatnot. And like I feel like just seeing Goku's like journey, from him as like an innocent like little like naive kid to like this like prominent renowned warrior or whatnot. I feel like it's great, especially to see his progression like in all these like volumes like this, like these volumes. It's pretty much just like progression and growth, as you were saying. I don't want to ramble on, but yeah.
No, you're good.
And the combination of sci-fi and fantasy, I love that. This does it very well.
What I like about I do like the sci-fi fantasy aspect. I think it's really cool that he's just like Sun Wukong, like from like Journey to the West. And then he gets to meet like a bunch of space aliens, and then it turns out that he's an alien. Spoilers, guys, for something that were released 30 years ago. People generally who became fans of manga and anime in the West in the early 2000s and late 90s started with Dragon Ball, especially the anime. Like Dragon Ball is the shit.
This is very popular in South America.
Oh, it's extremely popular, more so than like Naruto and One Piece and all that stuff. I would say it's like huge there. You can't walk around in Mexico without a Goku shirt on.
And the creator passed away, correct?
Yes, he did. May he rest in peace.
Yeah.
He was a living legend. Let's look at some more. I love this panel of Goku and Frieza facing off. I like how minuscule he makes Frieza look. It's really fun.
Frieza, I guess I didn't complete this. Mewtwo is literally just a copy of Frieza.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, sorta, yeah.
Yeah, wow.
It's a good question of who came first.
It was Frieza.
Was it?
Yeah, Mewtwo's from the 90s.
Oh yeah, because it's Pokemon.
Yeah.
You're right. But yeah, Frieza, super dope villain. I really like Master Roshi. I love his design.
He's a goat.
I like how he's like just like a big square. If you like just take like his basic like shape, he's just a square and like a little circle carapace in the back. It's my favorite part about him. And
I wonder how influenced he was by Yoda.
Probably a decent amount, if I had to guess. But he's just kind of like a turtle, and he lives on a turtle house with a turtle who talks.
It's awesome.
It's really peak. Can't lie. He created the Kamehameha wave, so you know. Then we have JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I know you have strong feelings on this one.
It started in the 80s?
87.
Wow.
So JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, as I said before, is it started off as a 1-to-1 clone of Fist of the North Star. It was about this. It was kind of a mix of Goku and Kenshiro, who became Jonathan Joestar, because he's like this like really buff, burly guy, but then he was like, how do I put this? He's just like a very nice guy. Like he's like a type of guy you want to be friends with. But as JoJo's has gone on, and it's gone on for a long time, it's changed protagonists with every single iteration. And as the iterations go on, the guy writes it, Hirohiko Araki, he kind of changes his style a bit. And what I think is cool about JoJo's is that it never settles on one idea. It always evolves into something more. And I really wanted to show you some of these panels because, my God, they're awesome. Like, this guy can fucking draw. And also, they've had a Gucci collab. That's how fashionable they are.
Wow.
I mean, look at these panels, man. This is everyone's. This is like the protagonist called Jotaro Kujo, and he's a 1-to-1 copy of Dirty Harry, like the movie.
Oh yeah,
which is cool, and that's just Jesus
Christ.
Christ.
This is great art. This is great art.
As I was saying, Jotaro, he's a 1-to-1 of Dirty Harry. Here's the here's the shot.
Go ahead and make my day,
punk. Did I fire 6 shots or only 5? Type beat. I love JoJo's. I think a lot of what makes JoJo special to me is just the amount, because I want you to know, like, this is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. This is probably the weirdest thing on this list. 100% weirdest manga on this list. It is so bizarre that it just, like, it makes no sense. Like,
is it fantasy? Is it sci-fi? Is it bold?
It's complicated. Like, for example, part 1 is very basic. It's like so
there's vampires at one point, right?
So this is Jonathan Joestar. He's our protagonist of part 1, and this is Dio Brando. This is our and the naming conventions of all characters in JoJo's are band or song names. So he is Dio, as in the band Dio, but except for the main characters, they're always Joe, and then it's Joe on the other name. So, like, for example, Jonathan Joestar, Joe, Jotaro, Kujo, Jotaro, Joe, all of that stuff. But part 1, very basic. It's a rich British guy who adopts an evil younger brother, or he has an evil younger adopted brother called Dio, and Dio becomes a vampire and does really evil things, basically. And then part 7, which is about to get an anime, is a wacky racist style race across America where the president of the United States is trying to procure the remains of Jesus Christ. So you can see how it gets a little weird. And the power system changes like halfway through, where Araki just goes like, I'm bored of copying Fist of the North Star, so I'm going to make them use stands, which are like, it's kind of like, you know Persona, like the video games?
Yeah.
Persona is a 1-to-1 copy of stands from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. So you have a little ghost that follows you around and has a special power. That's kind of how it goes. And it is really, really cool. And that is actually Jesus Christ right there on the screen.
Amazing.
So yeah, I love JoJo's. I think everyone should give it a chance. Not for everybody because it is really weird, but you should totally give it a shot. It is so cool. But we're gonna move on because I spent too much time talking about JoJo's. Next is Slam Dunk.
Whoa, never heard of this one.
You've never heard of Slam Dunk?
No,
all
it's
right.
cool.
Slam Dunk is really cool. It's a dope basketball manga. It's about a team of high schoolers who play basketball, but the art for it is fantastic. It's some of the best art I want to say like out there ever. Like I mean, look at these panels, man. It's sick. And the guy who wrote this, Takehiko Inoue, also wrote Vagabond, which is not on this because it's a seinen manga, but it's also a really popular kind of manga about a samurai that goes around killing people. But this manga is phenomenal. It's fully complete, by the way. You can read it start to finish right now if you wanted to. Like you could go home and read all of it. It's like how long is it? It's like 200-ish chapters. I could be wrong about that, but it's pretty breezy. It's not so bad. Like you could get it done in like a couple weeks. It's
And a volume has like how many chapters?
like I want to say like 6
or 7.
Yeah, something like that. No joke. I'm not gonna put the joke there. But you know, yes, 6 or 7 chapters per volume, depending on how long the chapters are. Funny. And I think Slam Dunk is like one of the cooler mangas that came out of this era. It's one of my personal favorites. This is the art for Vagabond, which he wrote afterwards.
From funny basketball story.
Funny basketball story. Well, it's pretty dramatic. I would say. I wouldn't say it's that funny.
Okay. Well, basketball story
to some of the coolest shit I've ever read in my life. I mean, look at these panels, man. It's so cool. Then we have a Yu Yu Hakusho, which was written by Yoshihiro Togashi. Togashi is a legend in the manga sphere. This is like, how do I explain Yu Yu Hakusho? So this guy, his name is, oh my god, I'm blanking on his name, but this guy basically he dies and he becomes a soul cop, and he's got a little gun, and he faces off against like otherworldly demons that look like that.
Basically. This reminds me of Junji Ito.
It is very Junji Ito looking. A lot of the villains in this look fucking crazy. I mean, this guy has probably like the coolest fight scene with the main character. Why can I not remember his name? Whatever. But it's fantastic writing. I mean, the art is really creepy and gory. It's like completely the opposite of Slam Dunk, where it's like really freaky looking. But I really like that kind of art style. I really dig the vibe. And yeah, I really like it. I'm not gonna spend too long on this because it's kind of long, but it is cool. Totally worth checking out. Next we have Rurouni Kenshin. So Rurouni Kenshin is it's pretty popular. It's about a samurai that gives up on killing, so he only hits like enemies with the back of his katana, which is like the blunt side, not the sharp side. So he only fights with the back of his katana, and he tries to be a better warrior, basically, but without killing people. So he's a very like honorable kind of guy. I do have to mention, I think the author got into some kind of water. I didn't really pay that much attention to it, but I know the author is like not well liked for one reason or another. But I still think it's still cool. It's part of the history, and I think I've read like most of it. I didn't finish it because towards the end it kind of falls off. But
that happens a lot in this industry with these creators.
It depends.
Frank Miller.
Yeah, we'll talk about some of the more egregious examples later, but I think it ends up falling off a little bit towards the end. But if you want to give it a shot, I think it's super worth checking out. It's part of history, so might as well. Then we have Yu-Gi-Oh! This started here.
Started off as a manga.
It started off as manga, not as a card game, not as an anime, but as a manga, which was then adapted into a card game, which was then adapted into an anime.
In the early 2000s.
but this started off as a manga, and now we have a whole card game that is played by a bunch of sweaty nerds now to thank for it. But it is cool. I think the art is really cool. Like look at this Exodia
I
panel.
love the design of the main character.
Yeah, Yugi. He's like, it gets really weird where it's like it starts revolving around like Egyptian treasures and like there's Egyptian gods and it's all based on like Egyptian myth. And then there's like the shadow realm that concept comes from this. It's like I'm sending you to the shadow realm, like that's a Yu-Gi-Oh thing. And the main character, he's got like a split personality. One of them is like this like timid boy who likes card games, and then the other alternate version is like an Egyptian god that takes over his body basically to play better cards. And his little like prism at his chest is like a portal to the dark dimension or some crazy shit. I always forget what it does, but
I grew up watching the anime a little bit on it was WB Kids. I don't know. Q, did you watch any Yu-Gi-Oh or have any exposure to it?
Of course, it's time to do.
My grandfather has no pathetic cards. Kaiba.
Blue Eyes White Dragon.
Blue Eyes White Dragon. Dark Magician.
Yeah.
Stuff like this is one of those classic manga / animes that American kids grew up on.
This transcends a lot of. I think like the Pokemon anime, this like transcends like the divide between American.
Came a little bit before Pokemon, I want to say. I think it did.
When did Red and Blue come out?
I think it was around this time.
It was probably around this time.
I'm gonna fact check.
Yeah, fact check yourself, but it spawned some like decent like kind of follow-ups. Like I Beyblade borrows a lot of DNA from this.
1996 originally.
Yeah, so basically like exactly the same year, essentially.
Yeah.
But yeah, Beyblade and like Bakugan borrow a lot of DNA from this, where it's like, you know, these stories about these games that then get turned into merchandise, which then get turned into worldwide phenomenons kind of deal. So moving on, we have Hunter x Hunter.
I've watched this anime. I like this one.
Some people debate whether it's Hunter x Hunter or Hunter x Hunter. I just say Hunter x Hunter because it's easier to say. Hunter x Hunter is really cool because it's like a deconstruction of the shonen genre up to this point. Like shonen characters were kind of these like, I don't want to say one-dimensional, but like really basic characters where they're like these happy-go-lucky guys, you know, super cool. But then, you know, let's say Gon, the protagonist of Hunter x Hunter, is like that. But then the author just decides to put him in the most brutal nightmare scenario possible to see what would happen. And I think the result is some of one of the best written arcs in Shonen. A lot of people say is the best written arc in all of Shonen Jump history, which is the Chimera Ant arc of Hunter x Hunter, which is towards like the latter half, I would say. But it is really, really good. A lot of people argue about what the second best is. My personal favorite is York New City, but a lot of people like Greed Island, which is another very cool one.
This one is very good. I've watched the anime. I'm not a big anime guy, but this is one of those animes that hooked me. It reminded me a lot of Legend of Zelda.
It is very Legend of Zelda.
Very just like a very cool fantasy world. The characters are, like you said, multi-layered, and very interesting. Do you have any exposure to Hunter x Hunter, Q?
I mean, I've seen the anime. I haven't really read much of the manga.
Yeah,
it seemed interesting.
So the anime that is out, the 2011 one, it only goes up to a certain point in the manga and then it ends. The manga is actually still ongoing, but the problem is that the guy who wrote it or who's writing it, I believe it's Togashi from Yu Yu Hakusho fame. Togashi is currently hospital written because he's diseased, and he has been for the past like 5 years. So Hunter x Hunter often has these points where it's on hiatus for multiple years, and then like 3 chapters will come out, and then it'll go back into hiatus, which is, you know, it's a frustrating experience, but like it's just like this poor guy, you know, he's like sick, so there's nothing he can do. Thankfully, his wife is also a manga artist. And so he's like passed on the rest of the story to her supposedly. So if he ever, God forbid, anything ever happens to him, the story will reach its end one day, which is good.
Yeah.
I think it's really funny because you talk about this like huge open world that they kind of develop, and right towards when he fell sick, and at the end of the anime, they revealed this thing called the Dark Continent, which is just like, hey, by the way, that whole stuff that you knew before, it's just a tiny island in a massive pond with a giant continent surrounding it. So there's even more stuff to look forward to with Hunter x Hunter. I can't wait for that story to finally reach its conclusion whenever he decides to write more. But yeah, love cool. Hunter x Hunter, super cool stuff. So now we're going to move on to what people on the internet refer to as the Big Three era of Shonen Jump. I don't know if you've heard the term of Big Three. Have you guys heard
the
Big Three?
I have, yeah.
You have. So the Big Three, starting with the release of One Piece in 1997, is the top 3 series in Shonen Jump for that period. So one of these 3 always held the number 1 spot for the time period that they aired. And those are One Piece, obviously. I want to move this so that John can see the manga panel down at the bottom.
Wow.
It's really cool. One Piece.
Pirates.
It's pirates. So One Piece is pirates. People have said, and I'm people in this case, but it is genuinely one of the best written pieces of anything I've ever read in my whole life. It is still being written. It is really.
Is it coming to an end soon?
It is. So it's supposed to be coming to an end soon.
And I heard what's been coming out this whole time for years and years is just season 1.
Okay, I wouldn't say it's season 1.
The person that told me that is very unreliable.
The way One Piece works is that it's just like every other manga, it's structured in arcs. So you have this first arc, which is Romance Dawn, and then you have the current arc, which is Elbaf. And so everything in between is like, it's like this big journey, right? Where this one guy, Monkey D. Luffy, he wants to become king of the pirates. And what that means is he has to find Gold Roger, the former king of pirates' treasure. And it's called the One Piece. No one knows what the One Piece is or what it represents or where it is or what. So it's just kind of his journey in order to find the One Piece. But that journey has become so long and complicated that so many new pieces have been added and so many new plot lines and stories and things that were foreshadowed. Like, I'm not even shitting you, 2 decades ago are just now starting to show or starting to be revealed. Like, there's this thing called the Will of D in early One Piece that gets revealed in like chapter like 200, and only just now in chapter 1170 something, we just now got what that mystery was.
That kind of payoff is
all that way back, and that payoff is nuts. It's like some of the best writing. It all feels earned. Many people have, like, as they're reading One Piece, can predict what comes next. There's a time on the internet where people speculated why one of the pirate crew members had a different wanted poster than the others. And somebody actually guessed it correctly years before that answer was revealed. Because it's possible to do that with the context clues that you get. It's just like, it's really difficult. Like, you could maybe guess, but there's like entire YouTube channels dedicated to figuring out the lore of One Piece before it ends. And we're reaching the end conclusion right now. Like, they're revealing some of the secrets of the world, and it has never been better. And it's been going since the 90s, weekly since the 90s. It only gets better. And I have to stand here and I have to give appreciation to Eiichiro Oda, the guy who wrote it. And then if you're not convinced yet, it's a revolutionary symbol now. This is from Indonesia this year, a couple months ago. This is a photo of their parliament building burning down and the One Piece flag being flown right above there.
It's pretty cool.
It is so cool. I don't think there's been a better time to be a One Piece fan. I think every person on earth should read it at least once. And I think it's super worth your time. I know it's long. I know it's long, but it's super worth it. It's so worth it.
I think the strength of these series and something you see in manga a lot that you do not see in comic books is that one creator is really able to stick to it for this whole time. And it's one person working on it, one person bringing their extravagant vision to light. With comics, it's like you have these brief visions that are brought, and they're very strong. It's apples to oranges, but it's something that me and Hugh have talked about is like where comics can't keep a writing and artist team on for indefinitely. These people are working on multiple things at once. It kind of seems like every manga creator is working on one manga at a time, essentially, and just putting their all into that. That model is very interesting and very effective, I feel.
So Oda has a team of aides. Like he works with a lot of people to make his manga the best quality as possible. But it is generally just his creative vision going into it. There's really because they trust him to be able to write this because he's been doing it for so long, and it only gets better and better. I think the only downside to this kind of storytelling is that the longer it gets, the more daunting it is to enter. Because I got into One Piece like 10, 15 years ago, like I'm an old head. I've been around for the long run, but now it's gotten 10x the length from when I started. So it's just kind of like I understand that it's a daunting challenge to even start, but I'm telling you, it's worth it. There is not a single person who's read all of One Piece and will tell you that it's bad because it's not. It's fantastic. It's, dare I say, peak. Next up on the big three is Naruto. Naruto, we've talked about a little bit. Naruto is also an extremely popular manga, and it was huge when it was airing. It went from 1999 to 2014. The manga. It doesn't hold up as well as One Piece does yet. We have to see how the ending plays out for One Piece for me to be able to decide that. But Naruto is one of those things where it's just cool, man. It's ninjas throwing fireballs at each other. Like, how much cooler can that get? Is all I'm saying. Like, it's just dope. And I think it's probably the most accessible title in this entire list for new readers because it's just so easy to get into. Like, everyone can get on board with ninjas, I feel like. Ninjas are cool. And so this is just about ninjas doing cool shit. That's all there is.
What about you, Q? You said you have a history with Naruto. What do you think about this manga/anime?
I love it. I have like a whole lot of favorite characters from it. One of my favorite characters, at least. What were we saying? Sorry.
Who's your favorite?
Okay, I have several. I would say, besides Naruto, obviously, and this from the Naruto, not Shippuden. For me, it's Jiraiya. And I know what type of person he is, but like, when he means business, he means business. Like, like he locks in.
No, he's cool. I like it.
Yeah, he locks in. So him, Kakashi, and then Rock Lee. Rock Lee, I always root for the underdog. I always love the underdog. I don't care.
Anime fan, bro. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah. That is one of the coolest fights I've ever seen in my life.
Shikamaru.
Yes.
Shikamaru is dope, bro. John only knows Shikamaru from a high school friend.
I would say honorable mentions for me, for characters. I would say Gaara, Neji, Obito, but that's moving to more into Shippuden.
That's later down the line, yeah.
Yeah, because I love his backstory.
I like Itachi and Pain.
Yes, the Akatsuki, like I feel like they're one of the best, villain groups.
They have so much aura as villains. Madara,
Oh yeah. There's so much.
I really love this panel. I really love
that's some great art.
Yeah, look at this panel of Pain, bro. Oh my god. And this is Mr. Aura himself right here, Itachi.
Off his throne.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
what
great
do you
art.
see with your Sharingan? Like, it's so cool. But yeah, so Naruto. This is where I started. This is where I started Naruto. Um, there are caveats to watching the anime versus the manga because in the anime, the way they were releasing it is that they were releasing it in tandem with the manga releasing. So to let the manga get ahead, in original Naruto, they just released like I want to say like 70 episodes of what people like to call filler episodes. And what that means is they add nothing to the story. They're just one off episodes that mean nothing. So you can literally look up websites of which episodes of Naruto are filler and you just skip them because there's no point to watching them. That's just my warning for all of you who'd rather watch it than read it. Just skip those episodes. You've been warned. But next, we have Bleach. Bleach is the third member of the big three and probably the least popular, I would say, nowadays. So I like to think of the big three as a pirate, a ninja, and a samurai. And Bleach is the samurai. So Ichigo Kurosaki, the main character of Bleach, is this kind of really badass. Like he's kind of reminds me of Kenshiro a lot, where he's just like a badass. He's got a fucking cool ass sword called the Zanpakuto, and he like goes around slashing like basically ghosts and demons, and he's really really sick. And these are
those are really good characters.
And I think the guy who writes Bleach, while probably my least favorite storyteller out of the three, his art is far and beyond above the other.
Is there some controversy with this story? Because I've heard some people say it's a bit weird.
So it's not. I wouldn't say it's controversial. I think it's pretty well known that the way that Tite Kubo writes is that he had a really great idea right at the start. So he had Ichigo Kurosaki, he deals with the Soul Society and all of these cool guys that he fights. And then after that you have an arc called Hueco Mundo, and it's kind of the same thing where he fights these like guys who are really cool, and it's like a structured organized military thing. And then after that there's another arc where he fights another structured organization of cool guys, and then it goes and it goes and it goes and it repeats itself over and over and over again. Because what happened was that when Tite Kubo was writing it, it was super popular. So his editor was like, "No, you have to keep going. Like,
what not broke, don't fix it."
Yeah, if it's not broke, don't fix it. And Tite Kubo was like, "I'm done with this, low key." And he's like, "No, you got to keep going. What are you talking about? We're making so much money over here." So he just kept going, and then he eventually told his editor, he was like, "Okay, I'm done. Just let me write the ending however I want to write it." And they were like, "Okay, do your thing." And that's the current arc that they're adapting with the anime. It's called the 1,000-Year Blood War, and that's the current stuff that's being adapted, and it's really really cool. And that panel of the old guys from that arc, Bankai. Whenever you hear a character say Bankai in this show, that's like an aura moment. They all have aura moments.
What does Bankai mean?
It just means they're activating their sword.
Oh, okay.
So they say Bankai, and then some cool shit will happen, basically. And yeah, so the Bleach anime is atrocious. Don't watch it. It is not even worth watching. I would just say just read it because the art is just so much better there. There's not even a point to watching it. But the big three era is just these three manga dominating the charts every single week. It's one of these at the top.
Okay.
There's no question, no ifs, ands, or buts. These are the big three, and that's what they.
And this is when manga and anime started to become popular in America.
Yeah, like to a certain extent. I wouldn't say like it would be as popular as it is now, but like I want to say at the tail end of the big three when they're ending, like when Naruto and Bleach start to end. That's when it starts getting really big around here. And we'll talk about the new gen era, which comes after these guys. Big three era ends with the conclusion of Naruto in 2014 and Bleach in 2016. And these are just like the big three dominant shows, and that's why they're called the big three. They're the three top dogs of the kind of era. But there are some other cool stuff that released at this time. Death Note, really.
This is good. I've watched.
Death Note is great. Death Note is not like other shonen manga where it's not.
It's a little more grounded.
It's a lot less focused on like physical fights, and it's more focused on like the mental game with the opponent. So like the battle between Kira and L, light versus dark, which is ironic because the main character is called Light Yagami. But and it's kind of this like psychological thriller kind of series. I don't know if you've read it, Q, but or seen it at all, but super worth your time. It's not even that long, I don't think.
Yeah, this is a good jumping on point. Have you watched it, Q?
So it's funny because someone at my job was trying to put me on to Death Note, like the premise and stuff like that, and I was like, like it seemed interesting because like as me, like I'm getting into more anime, manga. I'm trying to at least, and like Bleacher's on my list too, or not. I was thinking of watching the show, but now from what you said, I'm like, hey, I might just like end up reading it. But the only reason I'll get to that later. I'm sorry, I'm going all over, but for
No.
Death Note. For Death Note, I mean, it seems pretty cool. The art, the story premise, the show seemed pretty cool. Like, you know, I and correct me if I'm wrong. So it's like pretty much about a guy who pretty much is like, I forgot how it was explained, but you
So
could, yeah.
I'll explain you the basic concept, and then you can tell me if that makes sense to you or anything like that. But basically, what happens is that Light Yagami, he's this really bright kid, and he's above average intelligence, like, and he's pretty bored of the world. And then so what happens is this book falls from the sky, and he's like, "What the hell just happened?" So he walks over to investigate, and it says Death Note on it. And so he finds out that whenever he writes someone's name in the book, that person will die of a heart attack like 3 minutes later, I want to say, or something like that.
Yes. Okay.
And so he kind of decides, okay, I could do a lot of good with this book. I could like change the world. And so that's kind of what he seeks to do in one way or another. And it kind of unfolds from there where there's like a cat and mouse game where he's trying to kill criminals while he's being chased by the police. And you know, it kind of builds on that formula a lot. I really like this show slash manga. I don't own it, but I've thought about buying there's an edition of this manga called the all-in-one edition, which is just one really big book that has all of the chapters on it, and it's only like $50. So it's literally the whole story if you wanted it, and it's pretty great. I really like it. I highly recommend. It's also like really accessible. Like it's super short. I personally super recommend. Gintama is really cool. It's a gag manga, so it's like more about jokes. So it's all about there's an overarching plot, but it's less important. What is really cool about Gintama is that I would say this is the least accessible manga for newcomers, I would say, because it relies a lot on knowledge of other popular manga.
Like parody.
Like it's a lot of parody. Yeah, they parody Dragon Ball and One Piece and Naruto and all these other cool mangas that are currently coming out at the time. And the only reason they're allowed to do that is because they're being published in the same magazine, basically. So the creator kind of goes ham. But I will say the serious moments of Gintama are really cool. Like I was not expecting to be as invested in the story as I was when I was reading it. I was like, wow, this is actually really cool. But I will say this is like, if you read everything else on this list, that's like your tutorial for this, basically. So take it with a grain of salt. This is like a post-game DLC kind of thing, you know, like you come back to this one when you're ready, kind of deal. Bakuman is written by the same guy who wrote Death Note, or the same two guys who wrote Death Note. They were so stressed out when they wrote Death Note that they were like, let's make a manga about how stressful it is to make manga. So that's what Bakuman is. It's kind of a battle manga in the sense that like these guys are competing to be the number one manga in the magazine, basically. And you know, their power-ups are not like, you know, they get stronger. It's more like they become able to ink faster, or their drawings become better, or they're better at drawing better faster kind of deal. And so I think it's really cool. It's like very meta.
Self-referential.
yeah, you can kind of see a lot of the modern pressures. I think a lot of these pressures are still present in the manga industry today. And so it's like it's a kind of like a window into their lives if you're ever interested into doing that. I think it's pretty cool. Then we have Kuroko's
More
Basketball.
basketball.
More basketball. It's another great basketball manga. I don't think it's as good as Slam Dunk at all, but if you're looking for something a little more like balls to the wall action, a little less grounded, a little more like let's go fucking crazy. Let's put out the craziest power ups you can have in a basketball manga. Let's put them in there. Let's shove everything in there. And so you kind of end up with this like batshit insane basketball experience. They have a super Saiyan power up called the Zone, which is just being locked in. That's literally the whole power up. It's just like a little less serious than Slam Dunk. So if you want like a less serious kind of sports manga, this is it. Like this is just like the cool shit. Then we have Nisekoi. I wanted to include this because I feel like it's a lot different than what you get from Shonen Jump. Shonen Jump is a lot of like focused towards young boys kind of action. So you have like a lot of ninjas and pirates and samurai and all of this like cool shit, but sometimes you get some banger romance. I don't know how you feel about romance, but I think Nisekoi is like pretty good. It's called Nisekoi, it just means false and love. And it's this guy who's a mafia guy who gets he's a son of a yakuza, and he gets put into this like loveless marriage arrangement with this foreign girl that he has no interest in, but then stuff ensues kind of deal. Like it's all right. It's a cool thing. I just wanted to showcase it because I feel like it's a lot different. It's different than what you get.
There's really something for everyone.
Yeah, it really is like something for everyone kind of deal. If you want really good romance anime, I would go look at the shoujo ones because they're really way better. But
Look Back, right?
Yeah,
is that?
No, Look Back is Tatsuki Fujimoto. We'll talk about him later. Okay. But like something like Kaguya-sama Love is War is a shoujo manga, so you would find that somewhere else. But shoujo manga is good too. It's just like, this is just like a different thing I wanted to showcase. Then we have another sports manga, Haikyuu. Haikyuu is probably the most popular sports manga at the moment, I would say, by far. And it's a volleyball manga. Don't know why he's holding a blade there, but it's just like, it's really hype. That's all I will say about it.
Very fast paced. I've watched the anime.
Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, it is fast paced and it's also slow paced. There's an entire season dedicated to one volleyball match. And it is some of the most entertaining like TV you can ever watch. The manga is over. It's completely finished. I haven't caught up to the end, so I don't know how it ends. So I can't tell you if the ending is good. But what I know of it so far is super worth looking at. Then we have The Disastrous Life of Psyche K. Psyche K is about this guy who's an ultra powerful psychic guy, but he's a high schooler and he doesn't want anyone to find out that he's a psychic guy. So he gets into all these situations where people are like, hey man, are you psychic? He's like, no. And then he's obviously clearly a psychic, and it, hijinks ensue. And I think the ensemble cast of this gag manga is really, really cool. They're super fucking funny. Like this guy is a nerd who thinks he's cool, but he's not cool. This guy is just like an idiot. He has no brain cells. This guy's a former like gangster, and this guy's like a sports addict. And it's just like a really fun batch of idiots doing fun stuff. And I think it's pretty funny. I think the full thing is on Netflix if you'd rather watch it. It's really short. It's like 2 seasons. And
I've heard people talk about this.
It's really funny. I really like it. Next, we have Assassination Classroom. Assassination Classroom has probably the most bonkers concept I've ever heard. It's this kind of alien-looking guy. His name is Koro Sensei, and he's a teacher at a school, and he teaches for a school like a class of high schoolers, and the high schooler's goal before graduation, as mandated by the government, is that they have to be able to kill that guy. But he like moves at Mach 20. He has like 6 tentacle arms, and so he teaches them basically assassination, how to kill people, and it's like really cool. The ending made me tear up a little, low key, just a little bit. Fun time. I think he's probably the most expressive smiley face I've ever seen. He just like moves around in Mach 20. It's really funny. Now we have the new gen stuff. Like this is all post Big Three era stuff.
This is when anime and manga are really.
This is when it really accelerates. Like this is where all the modern like crazy titles come from. So this is all the new stuff that people are getting excited about. Like this is probably what will pop up on your Twitter timeline tomorrow. You know, like so. First off, My Hero Academia.
Superhero.
My Hero Academia is very much inspired by Western comics. There's even a character that's supposed to be Spider-Man, like just a one-to-one copy of Spider-Man. His name is Sero. He's not important to the story at all, but he is just a guy who's supposed to be Spider-Man. But from what I've heard of My Hero, so I used to be a big fan of My Hero, and then like around the midpoint, it kind of started to get a little shaky where I was like, I don't know if I'm going to keep reading this. But then a friend of mine recently told me, because My Hero, spoilers, recently just finished. And my friend was like, dude, you need to go back to My Hero. It's actually peak. And the anime is also concluding soon, I'm pretty sure. So there's never been a better time to hop back into My Hero. So I will probably do that soon. The art for My Hero is fantastic. I mean, look at this panel of Deku.
Very inspired by comics.
Oh,
like
yeah.
A fusion of comics.
No, this is very. This
Superhero
is probably the guy who wears his comic influence most on his sleeve. Like Horikoshi, the guy who writes it, huge superhero fan. So you will find like characters in My Hero, and you'll just be like, "Hey, that's just fucking Batman. That's just fucking Superman. Like, what are you doing here?" Like.
Chiu, have you checked out My Hero Academia at all? I think I've heard you.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's mostly for me. I've checked out mostly the anime more so than the manga. With the manga, I have so, but I've checked out the like supposedly the spinoff, My Hero Vigilantes.
Yes, I've heard of that. So I remember when that was like releasing, like publishing in the magazine. I have never read Vigilantes. I have no idea if it's good, but I've heard good things about it.
Yeah, it is. And with this series, like I used to watch it, and then have you watched it at all or no?
I haven't.
I have. I've kept up with My Hero a long time. It's just
The show, right?
Yeah. I watched. Okay, so I've read more of the manga than I've seen the show. I think I've popped up around season 5.
I popped up around that same season when I don't want to spoil it really for people, but like when. Okay, you know what? Spoiler alert! If you haven't watched
I think I know what you're talking about.
When Lemillion and Deku kind of rescue Eri, and that's where I kind of like
with Overhaul.
Yep, and that's where I kind of like left off, and that's where I like stopped.
That's also low-key when I jump ship a little bit.
Yeah, that's
it. I've heard the rest of it is really good. Like the stuff in the later arcs is pretty good from what I've heard. So I'm keeping an open mind, and I'm gonna go back into it. But I'm probably gonna read it. I'm gonna say screw it to the anime, and maybe I'll check out the fights retroactively. But I will say it's very well animated show. The second season of My Hero Academia, the anime, is animated by this guy whose name currently escapes me, but he's like a legend in anime. He like makes some of the coolest looking fight scenes ever. So I could recommend the first couple seasons of My Hero. It's really cool. And then if you want to keep going from there, do what you want. Next up is Black Clover. This is another popular title. I'm not sure if it's over yet or not. I actually have to double check that. But I actually really don't like this manga. I think it drags a lot. But if you stick with it, there are parts of it that I do really like. When I used to have infinite time, so COVID, I caught up to Black Clover, and I think first chunk of it is the worst chunk. Like it's such a fucking slog to read, but once you get to the latter half, that's when I think the really cool stuff is. But I wouldn't say I recommend it just because that first part is just such a slog, man. It's so brutal, but it could be cool. It's about I should probably talk about what it's about. It's about a bunch of wizards. So it's a wizard society with people who have like these tomes that cast certain spells of different attributes. And our main character, his name's Asta. He has zero magical affinity, zero. So but he wants to be Wizard King. Does that remind you of anything? He wants to be Wizard King, and so he goes, "Oh, I have no powers, but I'm gonna get shredded." So he just becomes absolutely yoked, and he ends up getting a tome that has anti magic. So everything, like his big sword that he's holding there, it dispels magic, and that's his whole shtick. And yeah, that's the cool concept about it. I mean,
I haven't heard much about this one.
it's a little niche, I will say. I think it's just because that first slog is just it turns so many people away, which is so fair. Like it's so boring at the start, but the latter half is really cool. That's all I'll say about it. Next up, Demon Slayer. This is probably one of the most popular new gen shows to come out. And this is the only manga on this list which I would recommend the anime over the manga. I think the manga is cool. I think Gotoge Sensei, who wrote this, did a great job. But the animation in the anime is just so much better. It doesn't even pale in comparison. Like the anime just makes the manga look like dog. So I would say watch the anime. It's so good. This is actually, fun fact, the first manga since One Piece's release to ever outsell it in 1 year.
Wow. That's impressive.
It's really impressive.
That's a big one.
Yeah, that's a big fucking deal. Next up, we have The Promised Neverland. I will not spoil what this is about, but this is the complete opposite of Demon Slayer, where you should not watch the anime. You should exclusively read the manga. The anime fumbles it really badly.
The first season was good.
The first season is good. The second season is atrocious. Do not watch it. But I will not spoil what this is about because I feel like everyone should go into this blind.
Check this one out. It's a cool concept.
John, he's seen the first season. He knows what the spoiler is, but just go into it blind. Promise, super fun time. Have you heard of Promised Neverland?
I haven't. No.
Oh yeah, go into it blind. Watch episode 1 and then report back. Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
I'm sure you could talk about it with John. Anyway, next we're moving on to Dr. Stone.
The JoJo creator.
Wrong.
Oh.
This is not the JoJo creator. So the story was by what's his name? Ikagaki Sensei. But the guy who does the art, his name is Boichi, and he actually got his start drawing hentai. So he drew hentai, and then his hentai art was so good that the guy who was writing the story was like, "Yo, do you want to come do art for my official manga?" And he was like, "Absolutely."
What a way to get an artist.
What a way to get an artist. But this one, I think, has the coolest concept. So the main character, his name is Senku, and he is a genius scientific mind. He's got like the greatest scientific mind of the 21st century. But then one day, like that, all of humanity gets turned to stone completely. And so he sits in the stone for 3,000 years, and basically all technological progress reverts back to the Stone Age. There's no technology, and he is tasked by himself to return all of modern technology to the world.
That's really cool.
And it is a really cool concept. And he meets these cavemen who have no idea what any of this shit is, and it blows their minds whenever they see like a light bulb, and it's like sick. It's awesome.
Very cool concept.
This is the only manga that I will say the fights ruin, because I just want to see him do cool shit, and then sometimes you have to have conflict for some reason. And I'm like, come on, man, just let me watch this guy make shit. And they explain how stuff is made too in the manga, so you get to learn something while you're doing it. This one's also over. I thought the conclusion was a little whatever, but I think the concept is so strong that it's worth checking out. I mean, this is the big boy. This is like, if you're anyone who's into anime in the modern day, has heard and read or seen this. This is like the thing to know. So what is Jujutsu Kaisen about? Well, Jujutsu Kaisen is about this guy. This guy's name is Itadori Yuji. And one day he and his occult club in school find this kind of like cursed object, which has been attracting curses to the location. And the curses manifest and kill people in real life. And so to be able to fight the curse, he swallows the finger and absorbs the power of the most powerful curse, Sukuna, the king of curses. And so he's taken in by these sorcerers who are like, oh, we're going to execute you because you have a curse, you have a cursed finger, and we don't want Sukuna to come back. And so this guy, the most popular character in modern anime, I would say, Satoru Gojo, comes in and he spares him, and he's like, no, you know what? I'm going to teach this kid how to become a jujutsu sorcerer and fight curses alongside us. And that's the main concept of this manga. And I think when season 1 was airing, like, people were like, okay, this is a cool concept, whatever. But then when season 2 finished, that's when the hype just kind of exploded. That's when people were like going crazy over it. And I want to say, as much as I like the story for this, I would advise you to not get swallowed up by the hype. Just go into it with open mind, open expectations. It is good. Don't get me wrong. I just think it gets a little overblown on the internet. So just be mindful. But it
Big
is
community.
Big community.
I know a lot of people that are very, very, very into this.
I read it as it was ending. And I read it also when it came out.
You read up to the end?
Oh, I'm done with it. It's finished. But I think what's interesting about it is everything up to the ending is good. Like, very solid. I think the ending's like whatever. But I'm not gonna get into ending talk right now. But Q, I'm sure you've heard a lot about JJK. By the way, the nomenclature is just JJK because it's short for Jujutsu Kaisen.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about it. That's another one that I'm thinking about getting into or not. That and Demon Slayer, because I know like they've had like the movies come out recently and stuff like that. And yeah,
JJK is great. Don't get me wrong, super awesome.
They just didn't stick the landing. I
think the landing didn't stick, but who am I to say? But the second season that just aired, like, I don't know, like a year or two ago, fantastic. And actually, in a couple of days, season 3 will begin airing in the US and in Japan. So look forward to that. Next up, one that you've both read, I assume, Chainsaw Man.
Very good.
And I could talk about the guy who writes it forever, Tatsuki Fujimoto. But I love Chainsaw Man. I think it's still ongoing. So, it hasn't ended yet. But who's your favorite character so far?
I like the main dude the most. He's a good
Denji? Yeah, Denji's lit. He's just a 16-year-old boy.
The action in this one is superb. It's really pushing the envelope of what can be done with like visual, like comic book, manga. It's every page is like an album cover, like an explosion of
this is probably the most famous page, I would say, for the whole thing.
The art is very, very good, unlike anything I've ever seen. Did you read any of Chainsaw Man, Q?
So funny thing, so for my audio production project, this semester, we had to do an automated dialogue replacement, and my group chose an anime, and one of my partners wanted to do a scene from Chainsaw Man. The specific scene was, I guess, when Makima, like, on the train, and like she got shot, and then she somehow comes back, and then Tendo and
Makima.
Kirose like come. Yeah, so that scene and like that scene was dope, and like kind of just doing that, and then seeing kind of like the story behind it. Just with like her like just like popping up after being like just shot full of holes, and I'm like, okay, like I wanted to learn more. So
Yeah.
that's definitely one on the list I have to
This is
tap
a very
into.
popular one. The movie just came out too.
Yes, the movie
Yeah.
was also fantastic. As a guy who's a fan of the manga, it's really good. I will say about Makima, what was really funny about Makima to me is that even before the anime had come out, people were doing cosplays on Twitter of Makima, and there were already people in the comment section barking at the women doing the cosplay of Makima. That's how like that's how great the concept of her is, I think. Like as a character, she embodies this kind of like I don't even want to talk about it because it's low key spoilers, but
Don't spoil this one. It's too
I won't spoil it, but Makima is so good as a character. By the way, I guess we should talk about the concept, right? I mean, Chainsaw Man is about our real world, but there are things called devils in it, and devils are manifestations of fears that humanity has. And the more something is feared, the more powerful it is. So, for example, something like the tomato devil isn't very strong, but something like the nuclear bomb devil or the gun devil, that devil is very strong because it's something that people universally kind of fear. This panel is from the darkness devil, like the interaction they have with the darkness devil, and that is one of the coolest parts of the manga.
Very cool concept.
Very cool concept. By the way, Fujimoto, the guy who writes it, is a massive film buff.
Whoa, this is awesome.
And so here we have some panels from the opening of Chainsaw Man season 1 compared to the scenes of the movies they come from. This isn't even all of them. This is just like a photo I found on Google Images. But you can see you have Pulp Fiction, The Big Lebowski, Attack of the Killer Tomatoes,
No Country for Old Men.
No Country for Old Men, Kayako versus Sadako, and this like meme image here at the bottom, which and this is like from a manga he wrote, I'm pretty sure. But
very cool.
Everything this man touches, the anime industry loves. All of his projects have had anime adaptations, except for Goodbye Eri and Fire Punch, which are two of his other projects. So, like, for example, there's this series of short stories that he released from ages 17 to 26, and it's just titled 1726. Every single one of those short stories has an anime adaptation. That's how much glaze this guy gets on from the anime community. He's also the weirdest guy ever. The only video of Tatsuki Fujimoto on the internet is him trying to levitate. So he like jumps into the air and falls back to the ground and slams his face on the floor. And he has a Twitter account pretending to be his non-existent kindergarten age little sister, which is really,
that's weird.
He got in trouble with his editor because that account would post spoilers of Chainsaw Man before it was out, but it was just him talking about the next chapter of Chainsaw Man.
That's weird.
No, he's a super weird guy. There's no question, and I don't condone half of the things that he does in real life, but man, his stories are so good. It's unbelievable. And then there's something called the Fujimoto effect, which is when he wrote Fire Punch in 2018, which is not a part of this magazine, which is why I didn't include it. His three assistants, Yuji Kaku, Tatsuya Endo, and Yukinobu Tatsu, went on to write three of the most popular shows of the modern age, which are Hell's Paradise, Spy Family, and Dandadan. Spy Family and Dandadan we'll talk about later because they come up later. But like this guy, his influences are fucking everywhere, and he started not even that long ago. Next up, Spy Family.
There we go.
I think Spy Family has probably one of the strongest concepts on the list, along with Dr. Stone. It's a spy manga, but it's also a battle manga, and it's also a comedy manga. So it's a family the dad is a spy, the mother's an assassin, and the daughter is a telepath. So she reads both of their minds. The dad adopts the daughter from an orphanage for a special mission, but to not look suspicious to the internal police, he needs a mother. So he kind of finds this woman who's very shy, and he's like, "Do you want to be my like fake wife, so we don't get ratted out to the police?" And she's like, "Sure." But she's also like a famous assassin, and their like identities are hidden, and so like these hijinks kind of ensue where he's trying to accomplish a goal which is directly antithetical to her goal, but they don't know that they're working against each other because their double lives are secret, and the only person that knows that they're like having this double life is this daughter who's a telepath who can read their minds basically. And it's really good. It's one of the best mangas to have released recently. It's really like lighthearted and fun. It's like a great time. I remember when it came out, I was like, I was reading it as it was coming out. I was like, wow, the guy who writes this is genius. Next up, Sakamoto Days, which we talked about earlier. Q. Sakamoto Days is like if John Wick was a retiree. So this like number one assassin, he falls in love with a woman and he retires to work at a grocery store, and he becomes really fat, and so people try to kill him. Also, some of the best art on this list, I will say. I really like this panel of the old man who opens the door with a katana, and he doesn't speak normally. He just speaks in gibberish.
Yeah, I love Sakamoto. I do see the parallels from like that to John Wick. Like literally, like if his wife didn't die, like literally, if he was just happy. Like literally, like that's what it was, and I love that parallel. But this came at a point in time where like I really wasn't really into anime, and then I got referred to this to a friend, and it was great. Like the first episode hooked me. I still have to finish. I'm still not on season 2. I think I'm on episode like 11 of season 1, but that's a whole nother story. But I love it.
The manga, it's great. Only gets better from there.
I have to tap into the manga, but I love it, and especially like just I do agree with you with the artwork. I've seen some of the panels, and I love it. I love the characters, the different like types of assassins, their backstories, what they have to offer, just like hard boiled. Everybody has like a certain knack or a certain like thing that they're like known for and special for, like the shapeshifter guy, the sharpshooter, So yeah.
No, I 100% agree. Like all of these assassin archetypes all coming together to do this whole big like assassin cool shit. It's like dope. And I think the concept of John Wick, who actually got to have his happy ending, only to be brought back in as a fat convenience store worker, is really funny to me. I don't know, that concept it makes me laugh. Next up, we got Kaiju number 8. So Kaiju number 8, I think this is like a dark horse manga. I don't think it's like top of the top best thing I've ever read, but it is really cool. It's about this like 30-year-old man who had this like goal to be part of this like elite strike squad against like these kaijus that come and attack the populace and he kind of ends up joining like the cleanup crew, basically like the people who go over there and clean up the debris from kaiju battles. And so he's like, okay, I guess and he's working one day, and then he gets absorbed by this power, and he becomes Kaiju number 8, who is this like half human, half kaiju hybrid, and he starts like just beating the shit out of kaijus. It is really cool.
That's awesome.
It's really dope. I don't have that much to say about it. I just think it's.
You've read this one, right?
You've read this one?
I have, yeah.
Oh, really?
So,
sick.
So with that one, this is like this, and then another manga we're probably gonna talk about later on, probably. Like I said, this year, last year was like a time that I was like, I want to get back into manga. I want to start reading more manga, anime. And one of my friends was like, hey, start with Kaiju number 8. And literally it has like a lot of parallels from like, straight up like, the Hulk, but also like absurd. Like it's not straight like the Hulk. It's like very like funny, like comical in a sense as well too. Just some of the panels.
Lighthearted, I would say.
Yeah, yeah.
I do really like it. I think it's a sleeper pick. Like the anime came out and not a lot of people talked about it. I just think it's like one of those like I think the manga is better than the anime, to be honest, because the art is just so much better.
I haven't watched the anime, but the manga seems pretty cool. So
I think the manga is super worth it. It's just like cool. Like it's just like a guy who beats the shit out of kaiju's. Like how cool how much cooler do you want it to be? Like, oh, I love kaiju's too, bro. Like
Godzilla is some I've seen every Godzilla movie. Love.
Yeah,
Godzilla.
so this is like right up your alley, I would say.
But yeah, this one piques my interest.
It's cool.
I read a comic similar to this called Ultra Mega, which is about you probably haven't heard of it. It's very, very good. There's some really good kaiju crossover with the comic stuff with like Transformers. Transformers are not kaiju, but they're kind of adjacent. And Ultra Mega is also very good. I forget who does the art for that, but it's incredible. Similar concept to this, but very cool.
So next up, we have Don Da Don. And this is probably my favorite new gen Tatsuki Fujimoto effect kind of manga. So what I'll explain the basic premise first. So Don Da Don is about these two high school kids. One is called Momo Ayase, who is this like daughter of this like psychic esper kind of girl. And then or granddaughter, I should say. And then you have Ken Takakura, who is this really big into the occult and like aliens. And so they kind of butt heads with each other where she's like, nah, I believe in ghosts, but there's no fucking way aliens are real. And then the other guy's like, bruh, ghosts? Are you retarded? Like, it's so much better with aliens. Aliens are super real. Like, there's no way ghosts are real. So they dare each other to kind of so he goes to a haunted spot and she goes to a place where there's alien sightings. Turns out both of them are real. And so he gets haunted by a ghost called Turbo Granny, and she steals his balls, but we'll get there. And the girl, turns out she has psychic powers to fight the aliens. And just to give you a sense of like what concepts these people use, in the manga, they just finished fighting the quite literal Sharknado. It's tons of these like ghost concepts and alien concepts that you don't really see used. And I think what's even better about it is that it can do it with a great romance subplot on top of it. Like if they won't they between the two main leads is peak. It's actually so good. And all of the main characters are likable and the story is really good. And the fights and the art is fantastic. If you have any interest, the most recent anime that came out is fantastic. I think it's the studio they picked for it, called Science Saru, are used to doing like these weirder shows, and I think this is one of the weirder ones, and they nailed it. It's so much fun to watch, and it's so much fun to read. It's so cool. Next up, Kagurabachi. I think this is the last one on our list. But Kagurabachi, what's really cool about Kagurabachi is the stuff that happened before it even released. But I will also say the art for Kagurabachi is insane. It's nuts. The guy who draws it really likes to use like these dark contrast like panels. He loves using black. And so like everything is black. Like look at this panel. There's barely any white in there. Cool. I think it's also very brutal manga. Like there's tons
Punisher-esque.
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah.
Very Punisher-esque. Very much so. It's like this guy who's the son of a swordsmith who made these like legendary swords that have special abilities. And there's I think 9 of them in total. I could be wrong. Might be 10. And so well, what's really cool about it is that like his father gets murdered by these like wizard guys who take the swords for themselves, and they're all like evil bastards. And so he's going to reclaim them. And so he's like, I'm gonna go reclaim the swords and kill the bastards who killed my father, kind of deal. But I also kind of wanted to talk about the Kagurabashi meme that came out before Kagurabashi even released. You know, it's completely dead now. It's like this is before even its release, but it started with this tweet which says enough time has passed and it's Kagurabashi greater than Boruto. And Boruto is the sequel to Naruto that not many people think is good. I personally agree that it's pretty shit. Um, and so the joke being that this manga that hasn't even released yet is better than Boruto. And that gained some hella traction. And so there's Kagurabachi greater than everything kind of meme that started. And then this image was birthed, and I think it's one of the funniest images I've ever seen in my whole life. It's Peter Griffin as Kagurabachi, but like I want to preface like the manga hadn't even released yet,
and it already had all this.
And now that it's and you know it had all of this momentum, and now you kind of see that the manga itself is also pretty damn good. Like it's really early yet. I mean, it's still really early. It only released like 3 years ago, and so it's still kind of in its early stages. But so far, I mean, from what I've read, it's pretty good. Like I've been really enjoying the art and the characters and the motivations, and like the main character is this badass who like has this dope sword with like koi fish that come out of it. It's like sick.
Very cool. Q, you've read this one a little bit, right?
I have. No, yeah, for sure. And like only like really the first volume. So like I said, this is just me really trying to get back into anime and stuff, but I do love it. Like I said, I feel like it's Punisher, like the Crow, like a lot of like, you know, characters who like go on like these revenge quests, these, you know, vengeance arcs, but it's mixed with like magic and like, you know, like mystical, like we were talking about the swords or whatnot. So it's like a lot of like magical elements. I love that kind of like incorporation, that kind of intersectionality. So yeah.
For sure. I 100% agree. So I wanted to include a where to read kind of section. So all of the mentioned series can be found on Shueisha's Manga Plus app. And so if you wanted to read the currently running series, like the more recent stuff, all of it is for free. You can read every chapter of one series that's ongoing for free, completely for free. And then if you wanted to read series that are completed, so like stuff that's done, you do have to pay $4.99 a month. I do want to say that if you want, you can always pirate it. But it's like illegal, so like you know, whatever.
We don't condone that.
We don't condone piracy, but you know, you can. And then you could also buy the physical books, but I don't recommend it because a lot of series get really long. Like One Piece, if you wanted to own all volumes of One Piece, it would literally easily cost you over $1,500. No questions asked. Like it's expensive to own the physical volumes. So I would say to, you know, read it online first. If you really like it, come back to it, buy the physical books. That's a great way to have it, I would say.
If you were somebody that is not into manga, hopefully something out of here has spoken to you and you could check it out. Because it's very important to support non-English language stuff. Even though manga is very big, but huge. Outside of the mainstream stuff, sometimes this stuff doesn't get enough traction that it deserves. And it's definitely a good way to broaden your cultural understanding. And obviously you visited Japan, so it's very big over there, and I'm sure you saw massive. You know how important it is to the Japanese people and how much of it is a reflection of their culture. But just support different cultures, explore different cultures. Don't just stick to superhero comics, which is something even I'm very guilty of. Just branch out, and it's a very rewarding experience. What about you, Q? You have anything to?
Yeah, like just, you know, seeing the intersectionality and branching out, because you'll see a lot of similarities within a lot of different like books and characters and arcs. Just like, you know, we were talking about Goku, Superman, like that's a big argument. But also too, it's just like good to see like, you know, just different. Like I even like, you know, me as like being a film and video you know, major, like, you know, I feel like you can't call yourself a film critic unless you haven't, you know, explored like German expressionism, French surrealism, a lot of like Japanese, you know, media stuff like that. Yep. I was my favorite director, Akira. Thank you, yo, bro. You know, Paul. Like,
of course,
you
bro,
just like you're not like, you know, you're not like, I wouldn't call you a film critic or whatnot if, you know, you didn't open your your eyes to different like type of, just avenues of like, film and media. And I say the same thing for like, comics and manga and whatnot. Like I feel like it's really good, and that's why I'm really trying to get myself even, because I feel like me too, like, I'm talking about all this, but I really do want to like read more, manga. And I feel like this presentation really gave me a lot of like avenues of where to start, of what to continue on, of what to, hey, maybe tap into, whether it's the anime or whether it's like in the manga. So I really appreciate this, man.
Thank you for coming on, Chris.
Hey, bro.
Appreciate it as always.
Word, man.
Thanks,
I
guys.
just before we end, I always I love to give a little teaser of what's to come. So we're approaching the end of season 1. As me and Q decided to organize it, season 1 of the Illustrated Underground. I hope you guys have enjoyed this beginning of our journey together. Me and Q just want to say thank you to everyone from the bottom of our hearts. This has been one of the most fun and rewarding things, creative endeavors that either of us have ever done, and it's brought us so much joy. And I'm sure Q feels the exact same way. But we're gonna tackle one of the greatest characters in fiction next time in a 2-parter. So hold your horses. Stay tuned. We're doing something great. Next episode, that man. That's all I have to say. So tune in. We'll see you guys next time. Hope you guys enjoy this episode.
This is the Illustrated Underground. Yo, thank y'all all for tuning in. Keep following, keep learning, and dig into some manga. Anime.
Yes, 100%.
Come on.
Yes. Peace out, everybody. Happy New Year. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Yes,
Happy New Year, y'all. Wishing y'all the best for 2026.